evening, my dear listener. Tonight, I will guide you into the ancient world of Greek mythology, a journey that begins in the silence before time, when there was no earth, no sky, no sea, only a vast emptiness called chaos. From that emptiness, the first powers awoke. Gaia, the earth, steady and fertile, and Uranus, the starry sky. Together, they gave birth to the Titans, the first rulers of the cosmos, long before Zeus and the Olympians. These are not just stories. They are the roots of history itself, whispered from one generation to another. Tales of love and betrayal, of war and creation, of gods who shaped the world, and of heroes whose names echo through eternity. So, close your eyes, let your breath slow down, and allow my voice to carry you as we step gently into the dawn of creation, where the story of the gods begins. In the very beginning, there was nothing. No sky above, no earth below, no ocean, no sun, no stars, only silence and an endless void called chaos. But chaos was not like the chaos we know today. It was not noise nor confusion. It was a vast emptiness, dark, quiet, infinite. From this emptiness, the first beings slowly emerged. First came Gaia, the earth, solid, steady, fertile, the mother who would give life to everything that followed. Then came Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath the world, and Eros, the gentle force of love and desire, the power that would bind creation together. From the shadows appeared Nyx, the night, wrapped in a cloak of darkness, and beside her came Erebus, the deep gloom of the underworld. Together, they gave birth to Ether, the bright upper air, and Hemera, the day, destined to chase her mother across the sky forever. But Gaia, the earth, was not still. From her body, she brought forth Uranus, the starry sky, to cover her from above. He became her companion, and when sky stretched over earth, the world took its first shape. Gaia also gave birth to the mountains, tall and wild, and to Pontus, the sea, restless and deep. Together, earth and sky formed the first great union, and from their bond came the Titans, the powerful beings who would rule long before the Olympian gods. Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky, became the first great pair of creation. Every night, Uranus stretched himself across her, covering her with his endless body of stars. From their union came the Titans, 12 mighty beings, each vast and powerful. There was Oceanus, the river that encircled the world, Hyperion, Lord of Light, Cuis, the inquirer, Creus, the constellation bearer, Iapetus, ancestor of mankind, and Cronus, the youngest, shrewd and cunning. Among the daughters were Thea, shining mother of the sun and moon, Rhea, who would one day be the mother of the gods, Themis, embodiment of divine law, Mnemosyne, the memory of all things, Phoebe, radiant and bright, and Tethys, nurturing the seas. But Gaia's womb did not stop there. She bore other children too, children of strength and terror. First came the Cyclops, giants with a single eye burning in the center of their foreheads. They were smiths of lightning, strong and fearless. Then came the Hecatoncheires, the 100-handed ones, each with 50 heads and 100 arms. They were so powerful they could shake the very foundations of the earth. Uranus looked upon these monstrous children with fear and shame. Terrified of their strength, he forced them deep into Gaia's womb, hiding them in the depths of the earth. Gaia groaned beneath their weight, her body aching with sorrow and pain. The earth, once fertile and nurturing, now suffered in silence. And in her suffering, she began to plot revenge. Night after night, Uranus pressed down upon Gaia, blind to her pain, deaf to her sorrow. She could endure no longer. So, from her own body, Gaia shaped a weapon, a great sickle, carved not from iron or bronze, but from sharp, unyielding stone. Its edge was jagged as truth, and sharp as vengeance. She called upon her children, the Titans, and spoke to them in whispers of grief. "Your father has wronged me," she said. "He has trapped your brothers and filled the womb that bore you with silence and sorrow. Who among you will stand with me?" One by one, the Titans turned away, all except the youngest, Cronus. Cunning, patient, and fearless, he stepped forward and said, "I will do it. Give me the blade." That night, when Uranus descended as he always did, Cronus hid in the shadows, the sickle glinting faintly in his hands. With steady resolve, he struck. The blade fell, and the sky itself cried out in pain. Cronus severed his father's power, casting it into the sea, and from the white foam upon the waves, something new was born, a goddess of impossible beauty, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and desire. She stepped ashore, radiant and serene, destined to change the hearts of gods and mortals alike. But Uranus's blood fell also upon the earth, and from it rose the Furies, spirits of vengeance, the giants who would one day rise against the gods, and the ash tree nymphs, guardians of the wild. Defeated and wounded, Uranus fled into the heavens, his reign ended by his own son. But before leaving, he uttered a curse. Just as I have been overthrown by my son, so too shall you, Cronus, be overthrown by yours. Cronus took his father's throne, becoming king of the cosmos. But from the very moment he grasped his crown, he feared the prophecy, and the shadow of betrayal lingered in his heart. With Uranus gone, Cronus rose as ruler of the cosmos. He took his sister Rhea as his queen, and together they began what poets would later call the Golden Age. It was a time unlike any other. Mortals lived in peace, free from pain and sorrow. The earth gave its fruits without toil. Seasons flowed gently, and no one knew hunger, war, or winter's bite. Justice walked silently among humankind, and doors needed no locks. It was an age of harmony, a brief, shining moment in the story of the world. But shadows grew, even in the golden light. Cronus remembered the words of his father's curse, that he too would one day be overthrown by his own child. Fear gnawed at him, whispering in every breath. And so, when Rhea bore her first child, a daughter named Hestia, Cronus took the infant into his arms and swallowed her whole. Then came Demeter, and he swallowed her too. Next was Hera, proud and radiant. Then Hades and Poseidon. One after another, Cronus devoured his children, hiding them inside his belly. Like seeds buried in the cold earth, he told Rhea it was necessary, that the throne must be protected, that he would not fall as Uranus had. But Rhea's heart ached with grief. She wept in silence as each of her children vanished, powerless to stop him. Yet, when her sixth child was born, Rhea could bear it no longer. She fled to the island of Crete, and in a hidden cave, she gave birth to her youngest son, Zeus. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and gave it to Cronus. Greedy and fearful, he swallowed it without question. And so, Zeus, the child of prophecy, was hidden away in secret, nursed by the divine goat Amalthea, and protected by warriors who clashed their shields, drowning out his infant cries. Far from his father's gaze, Zeus grew strong, destined to bring the storm that would change the world forever. Hidden deep within the caves of Crete, Zeus grew in secret, far from his father's sight. The nymphs whispered stories to him by firelight. The goat, Amalthea, fed him with her milk, and the sound of clashing shields covered his cries. As he came of age, Gaia herself guided him. She remembered how Cronus had betrayed her, and how her monstrous children still lay imprisoned in the depths. To Zeus, she whispered dreams of rebellion, dreams of a world freed from Cronus's fear. When the time was right, Zeus sought the counsel of Metis, the Titaness of wisdom. With her guidance, he returned to his father's halls, disguised as a servant. There, he prepared a potion, bitter and sweet, laced with magic. He offered it to Cronus, and the king of Titans drank. A groan shook his body, and suddenly Cronus began to retch. One by one, the children he had swallowed came forth from his belly, not as infants, but fully grown and radiant. First Hestia, keeper of the hearth, then Demeter, goddess of the harvest, then Hera, proud and sharp-eyed, Hades, lord of the underworld, and Poseidon, master of the seas. For the first time, the 6 siblings stood together, united against their father. But Cronos was not alone. The Titans rallied to him. His brothers and sisters, mighty and ancient, gathering on Mount Othrys in the south, Zeus and his siblings claimed Mount Olympus in the north. And so began the Great War, the Titanomachy. For 10 long years the battle raged. Lightning split the sky. Mountains were hurled through the air. The seas boiled, and the earth shook. It seemed no side could win. But Gaia counseled Zeus once more. If he wished to triumph, he must free the imprisoned Cyclopes and 100-handed ones from deep within Tartarus. Bravely, Zeus descended into the abyss, breaking their chains. Grateful, the Cyclopes gave him a gift, the thunderbolt, blazing with storm and fire. To Poseidon, they gave the trident, and to Hades, a helm of darkness. The 100-handed ones, with their terrible strength, rose at last to fight beside the Olympians. With these allies, the war turned. Zeus hurled his thunderbolts. Poseidon shook the seas, and Hades moved unseen through the shadows. The 100-handed ones crushed the Titans, burying them beneath storms of stone. One by one, the Titans fell. Cronus was defeated and cast into the depths of Tartarus, bound in chains that would never break. The age of the Titans ended, and the reign of the Olympians had begun. When the war was over, the world lay quiet once more. The Titans had been cast into Tartarus, their cries swallowed by the darkness. The sky was clear again, and the earth, though scarred, began to heal. Now came the question: who would rule this new order? Zeus stood at the center, his thunderbolt blazing in his hand. But he was not alone. Beside him were his brothers, Poseidon and Hades, each strong, each tested by war. And so the 3 gathered, not to fight, but to cast lots, leaving the decision to fate itself. The first lot fell to Zeus. To him was given the broad sky, the clouds, the storms, the heavens above. He became king of gods and men, his voice echoing in thunder, his fury blazing in lightning. The second lot fell to Poseidon. To him was given the seas, deep and restless, full of mystery and monsters. With his trident, he could stir the waves into fury, or calm them into stillness. Beneath the waters, he built a palace of coral and gold, and ruled over all creatures of the ocean. The final lot fell to Hades. To him was given the underworld, the silent realm of the dead. It was not a prize many would choose, but Hades accepted with dignity. He became the keeper of souls, the guardian of hidden riches, gems and metals buried deep in the earth. Men feared his name, but he upheld the laws of life and death with solemn justice. And so the cosmos was divided. Sky to Zeus, sea to Poseidon, underworld to Hades. Yet the earth itself, Gaia's own body, remained for all, a shared ground where gods and mortals would forever cross paths. This was the beginning of a new age, the age of Olympus, an age of power, of stories, and of gods who would walk among men. Though Zeus now ruled the sky, and the Olympians sat upon their shining thrones, the earth below was still quiet. No voices, no firelight, no human hands. It was the Titan Prometheus who changed this. Unlike many of his kin, he had sided with Zeus during the war, not from loyalty, but because he could see the path of fate. His name meant forethought, and he looked further than others dared. Prometheus shaped the first mortals, some say from clay beside a river, his hands smoothing the mud into limbs, his breath giving them life. But they were weak and fragile, their skins soft, their bodies slow, without claws, without fangs, defenseless beneath the vast sky. Prometheus pitied them. He wished to give them a gift, something to help them survive. He went to Zeus and asked, "Grant them fire, so they may endure." But Zeus refused. "Fire belongs to the gods," he said. "It is power, it is strength, and mortals must never hold it. Let them live in fear, so they will know their place." But Prometheus did not obey. In secret, he climbed to the heavens, took a spark from the forge of Hephaestus, and hid it inside a hollow reed. He carried it down to the world below, and for the first time, fire crackled in mortal hands. Flames danced against the night, smoke curled into the sky. With fire came warmth, protection from the beasts, cooked food, tools, and craft. Humanity was no longer helpless. They had been lifted above the animals. When Zeus discovered the theft, his anger was terrible. He punished mankind with a cruel gift. From clay, the gods shaped a woman, beautiful, graceful, and cunning. Aphrodite gave her charm. Hermes gave her wit. Athena clothed her in silver raiment. They named her Pandora, meaning all gifted. She carried with her a sealed jar, a vessel filled with sorrow. When she opened it, diseases, hardships, envy, and death spread across the world like smoke. Only one thing remained inside: a fragile light, hope. And Prometheus himself was not spared. For his defiance, Zeus ordered him bound in chains at the edge of the world. Each day, an eagle descended, tearing at his liver. Each night, his body healed, so that the torment would never end. Yet Prometheus endured, for he held a secret in silence, a prophecy that even Zeus feared, that one day the king of the gods would fall because of his own child. Long after Prometheus gave fire to humankind, the poets began to speak of the journey of mortals, how they rose and how they fell, through different ages shaped by the will of the gods. The first was the Golden Age. It came during the reign of Kronos, before fear and war had touched the world. Mortals lived like gods themselves, without hunger, without sickness, without pain. The earth gave her fruits freely. When their time came, they did not wither. They passed away gently, as if falling into sleep. Their spirits became guardians, kindly watchers who walked unseen, protecting justice and peace. Then came the Silver Age. These mortals were beautiful and strong, but they lingered too long in childhood, careless and proud. When they grew, they refused to honor the gods. They built no temples, offered no prayers. For this, Zeus struck them down. Their spirits faded into the underworld, forgotten, without memory or honor. Next was the Bronze Age. Born from the ash trees, these men were hard and fierce. Their very armor and homes were of bronze. They lived for battle, their hearts burning only for war. They left behind no art, no songs, only shattered swords and empty fields. Even the gods did not mourn their passing, but from their ashes rose the heroic age. This was a brief, shining time when demigods walked the earth, sons and daughters of mortals and gods. They built cities, sailed seas, and carved their names into the memory of the world. Perseus, Heracles, Atalanta, Achilles, Odysseus. Their stories lit the world with glory. Some were granted a place in the Isles of the Blessed, where heroes dwell forever in peace. And then came the Iron Age, the age in which we still dwell. A time of toil, of struggle, of endless labor. Mortals rise each day with hunger and fear, grow old with sorrow, and betray one another with lies and greed. Justice walks with her eyes averted. The gods grow silent. And yet, Even in the Iron Age, one gift remains: hope, fragile, flickering, but unbroken. The one light that Pandora left inside her jar. After the ages of men were spoken of, the stories of the heroes began. Mortal and divine blood mixed together, creating figures whose names would echo for eternity. The first among them was Perseus. His story began not in triumph, but in fear and prophecy. His grandfather, King Acrisius of Argos, was told by an oracle that one day his daughter would bear a son who would cause his death. Terrified, Acrisius locked his daughter, Danae, in a bronze chamber beneath the earth. But the gods cannot be denied. Zeus came to her in the form of golden rain, slipping through cracks no wall could hold. From this union, Perseus was conceived. When Acrisius discovered the child, he dared not kill him, for even kings feared the wrath of the gods. Instead, he placed Danae and her infant son into a wooden chest and cast them into the sea. But the sea carried them gently. They drifted across the waves until they reached the island of Seriphos, where a kind fisherman, Dictys, took them in and raised Perseus as his own. Years passed, and Perseus grew strong and noble. But peace was not his fate. The king of the island, Polydectes, desired Danae and sought to rid himself of her son. Cunningly, he demanded a gift from every man on the island, and Perseus, having nothing to give, boasted instead, "I will bring you the head of Medusa." Medusa, the mortal Gorgon, whose gaze could turn flesh to stone. No man who had faced her had ever returned. But the gods favored Perseus. Athena gave him her polished shield, bright as a mirror. Hermes lent him a curved sword and winged sandals to fly. From the nymphs, he gained a magical pouch and the helm of invisibility. Guided by these gifts, Perseus journeyed to the edge of the world, where night never lifted. There he found Medusa, sleeping among stone statues, the remains of those who had met her deadly gaze. With Athena's shield before him, he dared not look directly. Step by step, he crept closer, and with one swift stroke, he severed her head. From her blood sprang wonders: the winged horse Pegasus and the warrior Chrysaor. Perseus placed the head in his pouch and fled as her immortal sisters screamed in fury. Hidden by the helm of darkness, he escaped. On his journey home, he came upon a maiden chained to a rock. Andromeda, daughter of a king, offered as sacrifice to a sea monster. Perseus, moved by her beauty and innocence, slayed the beast and freed her. She became his bride, and together they returned in triumph. When Perseus entered the halls of Seriphos, Polydectes mocked him. So the hero drew forth Medusa's head, and in an instant, the king and his court turned to stone. Justice was done. Dictys, the kind fisherman, was made king in his place. Thus began the age of heroes, with Perseus, the slayer of monsters, the savior of the innocent, and the founder of a line that would shape the future. If Perseus was the first great hero, then Heracles was the mightiest of them all. His name carried weight like thunder, spoken with awe across every land of Greece. Heracles was born of Zeus himself, the king of the gods, desiring the mortal woman Alcmene, disguised himself as her husband. From that night of divine trickery, a child was conceived, half god, half man. Even in the cradle, Heracles showed his strength. Hera, jealous and bitter, sent 2 great serpents to kill the infant. But the baby reached out with his tiny hands and strangled them both, one in each fist. As he grew, Heracles trained in every art: music, wrestling, archery, and war. He became strong beyond measure, yet carried a wild, restless spirit. For a time, he found peace. He married Megara, the daughter of a king, and had children of his own. But Hera had not forgotten. In her fury, she clouded his mind with madness. Blinded, Heracles struck down his own wife and children. When the madness lifted, he saw what he had done, and grief tore at his soul. To atone, he went to the oracle of Delphi, who declared that he must serve King Eurystheus and perform 12 labors, tasks so great that redemption might be earned. The first labor was the Nemean lion, a beast with golden hide no weapon could pierce. Heracles strangled it with his bare hands and wore its skin as armor. The second was the Lernaean hydra, a serpent with many heads, each cut spawning 2 more. With the help of his nephew Aeolus, he burned the stumps, and from the immortal head, he dipped his arrows in deadly venom. Then came the Ceryneian hind, the golden horned deer sacred to Artemis, which he captured alive. He faced the Erymanthian boar, dragging it back through the snow, while Eurystheus, terrified, hid inside a bronze jar. He cleaned the Augean stables, home to thousands of cattle, by turning rivers to wash away decades of filth. He slew the Stymphalian birds with bronze beaks and deadly wings, driving them into the air with Athena's rattle and shooting them down. He captured the Cretan bull, father of the Minotaur, and tamed the mares of Diomedes, flesh-eating horses, by feeding them their own master. He claimed the belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, stole the cattle of Geryon, a triple-bodied giant, and brought back the golden apples of the Hesperides, guarded by a sleepless dragon. At last, his final labor was the most fearsome: to descend into the underworld and bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of Hades. Heracles wrestled the beast with his bare arms and led it, snarling, into the world of the living. Through strength and suffering, Heracles completed all 12 labors. Yet, even after, His life was marked by battles, journeys, and grief. In the end, he was betrayed by a poisoned cloak. Burning his flesh beyond healing, Heracles built his own funeral pyre. And as the flames rose, Zeus took pity. He lifted his son to Olympus, granting him immortality. There, Heracles was welcomed among the gods. His labors turned into eternal glory. From that day, he was no longer just a hero, but a god. If Heracles was the strongest of heroes, then Theseus was the cleverest. He was not only a slayer of monsters, but also a builder of cities, a weaver of laws, and the founding spirit of Athens itself. Theseus was born of two fathers, King Aegeus of Athens and Poseidon, god of the sea. His mother, Aethra, lay with both on the same night. From this union came a child destined for greatness. Before leaving, Aegeus hid a sword and sandals beneath a heavy stone. When the boy is strong enough to lift this, he said, he will be ready to claim his birthright. Years passed. Theseus grew tall, restless, and sharp-eyed. At 16, he lifted the stone with ease and set out for Athens. Instead of taking the safe road by sea, he chose the dangerous land route, for he believed a true king must prove himself. Along the way, he faced 6 trials, bandits and monsters who plagued the roads. He slew Periphetes, the club-bearer, Sinis, who tore travelers apart with bent trees, and Procrustes, who stretched or cut his victims to make them fit his cruel iron bed. Each victory cleared the land of terror and won him honor. When he arrived in Athens, his stepmother, Medea, plotted against him. But Theseus revealed his father's sword and sandals, and Aegeus embraced his son as heir. But soon a darker fate loomed. For years, Athens had paid a terrible tribute to King Minos of Crete. 7 young men and 7 maidens, sent to feed the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull beast trapped in the twisting labyrinth. Theseus vowed to end this curse. He sailed with the chosen youths, his heart set on victory. In Crete, Minos' daughter, Ariadne, fell in love with him. She gave him a gift, a ball of thread, a clue to find his way out of the labyrinth. That night, Theseus entered the maze. Dark corridors wound endlessly, but guided by the thread, he found the beast at its heart. The battle was fierce, one man against a nightmare. But Theseus struck the Minotaur town and followed the thread back into the light. He fled with Ariadne and the freed youths. But on the island of Naxos, he abandoned her. Some say the god Dionysus claimed her. Others say fate tore them apart. When Theseus's ship neared Athens, he forgot to change the sails from black to white. King Aegeus, watching from the cliffs, believed his son was dead. In grief, he threw himself into the sea, which from then on was called the Aegean Sea. Theseus became king, uniting the villages of Attica into one city, Athens. He gave the people laws, festivals, and unity. He was a hero not only of strength, but of governance and vision. Yet, like many heroes, his end was bitter. Driven into exile, he died far from home, betrayed and alone. But Athens never forgot. His bones were brought back in honor, and his name lived on, a symbol of the city he built. Among the heroes of Greece, few journeys were as daring or as filled with wonder as the voyage of Jason and the Argonauts. Jason was the rightful heir to the throne of Iolcus, but his uncle, Peleus, had stolen the crown. When Jason came of age, he confronted Peleus, who, fearing prophecy, sent him on an impossible quest. To prove yourself, bring me the golden fleece. The fleece was no ordinary treasure. It was the shining skin of a magical ram, kept far away in Colchis, at the edge of the known world. Guarded by a sleepless dragon, Jason gathered a band of heroes, the greatest Greece had ever known. Heracles, Orpheus, Castor and Pollux, and many more. They built a great ship, the Argo, with a prow carved from sacred oak, a timber that could speak with the voice of prophecy. Thus they became the Argonauts, sailors of destiny. Their voyage was long and perilous. They faced the Harpies, winged monsters who tormented a blind prophet, snatching food from his lips. They passed through the clashing rocks, two mountains that crashed together and could crush a ship to splinters. But with speed and courage, they sailed through. At last, they reached Colchis, where King Aeetes guarded the fleece. He demanded Jason perform impossible tasks: to yoke fire-breathing bulls, to sow a field with dragon's teeth, and to battle the warriors that sprang from the earth. Jason despaired. But the gods sent help in the form of Medea, the king's daughter, skilled in witchcraft. Struck by love, or perhaps the will of the gods, she aided Jason, giving him potions and wisdom. With her help, he tamed the bulls, fought the earthborn warriors, and lulled the dragon guarding the fleece to sleep. At last, Jason seized the golden fleece, its glow lighting the dark forests of Colchis. With Medea by his side, he fled aboard the Argo. Their return was filled with more trials. But in the end, Jason stood once more in Iolcus, the fleece shining in his hands. Yet his triumph was not without shadow, for betrayal and tragedy followed him, woven by fate and by Medea's wrath. Still, the voyage of the Argo remained a tale of courage and wonder, a journey that inspired all who came after to dream of distant shores and to test the limits of what mortals could achieve. And so, the tales of the great heroes came to an end. Perseus, who slew the Gorgon and saved Andromeda. Heracles, whose strength carried him through 12 impossible labors. Theseus, who faced the labyrinth and gave Athens its spirit. Jason, who sailed beyond the edge of the world for the golden fleece. Each story shone brightly, a flame in the long night of human memory. But even the brightest flames eventually fade. The heroes passed away, and the age that bore their names drifted into legend. The world changed. Mortals remained, struggling in the Iron Age, while the gods sat upon Olympus, watching from their thrones of cloud and marble. Sometimes they reached down, interfering in love, in war, in fate. And sometimes they stayed silent, leaving humankind to walk its own path. Yet the stories endured, whispered by poets, sung by bards, carved into stone and painted on pottery. The myths of the Greeks became more than tales. They became lessons about pride and humility, about courage and betrayal, about the price of power and the fragility of hope. Even now, as you listen, you are part of that ancient chain. The same words that once echoed around firesides in distant lands are reaching you tonight, gentle and soft. The gods and heroes may belong to the past, but their voices linger, woven into the fabric of human imagination, forever alive in the stories we tell. And now, my dear listener, our journey through the myths of ancient Greece has come to an end. From the silence of chaos to the reign of the Titans, from the rise of Zeus and the Olympians to the daring deeds of heroes like Perseus, Heracles, Theseus, and Jason. We have walked together through an age of wonder. These stories, though ancient, still carry meaning in every whisper, reminding us of courage, of destiny, and of the fragile beauty of hope. As you lie here, let your breath slow, let your body grow heavy, and let your mind drift, as if carried on gentle waves across time itself. Close your eyes now and rest. The gods and heroes will keep watch, their voices fading softly into silence. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with peace.